You want to know when I'm moving down the hallway? Sure thing. So I'm living with my mother in a house we moved into 3 years ago now. Coming out of my room into the living room, you go through a hallway, passing the dining and bathrooms. Well, apparently this day I was quiet, as Mom got the shock of her life turning around in the living room to see me. And the immortal words, "Can you make some noise when you leave your room so I know you're moving?" Well, for 2 years now, I've done just that. Whistling, singing, silly noises. I've been tempted to get a slide whistle. She hasn't said a word, but I can tell by her face the regret. ETA for those bringing up hearing loss on her part. What? I appreciate the concern, but it's not that. If anything, her hearing's better than mine. She can hear just fine. She does laugh about it too. If anything, she got revenge by buying me a giant cactus. I call it the Flat Earth Society points of you get it, but it's British. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Storytime with Uncle Jon. Today we're looking at r/malicious compliance stories. That story to me it hits home. I can scare the crap out of just about anybody in this house, and I have no idea why. I'm not intentionally tiptoeing through the house. We even have squeaky floors. It's a 100-year-old house. We even have squeaky floors, and I can still walk through the house. I don't know. Maybe it's because when I was a kid, I was so used to walking softly so I didn't get caught, stealing snacks or extra cereal or something like that. I don't know. But I can sneak up on my mom. Well, nowadays that's easy, but back in the day when she was still a little sharper, a little less hard of hearing, my wife, I can sneak up on her. Most of my kids. Every once in a while they can hear me coming, but I'm not a heavy walker. Now, I weigh like 280 pounds, and I can do... Oh, there goes Diamond getting in his chair. I weigh about 280 pounds, and I can walk that softly through the house. Can somebody, one of you, explain to me the science behind that and the fact that I have one daughter who weighs maybe 115 pounds soaking wet? It sounds like somebody strapped a 10-pound weight to each of her feet when she walks. Thump, thump, thump. Any ideas out there? Like, why is it the lighter people walk heel heavy and stomp, 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 and fat ass like me can walk through the house without disrupting the whole world? I don't know. You need to get your priorities straight now. I'm sending a special shout out to all the teachers who are starting the new school year. Yay! I was at a training yesterday morning. 24 hours prior, my wife broke her ankle. Pretty badly, like it had to be reset. Ugh. I was with her all day that day, and yesterday during the training, she was recovering from her surgery while I learned how to use IXL, a math program that's pretty easy to figure out for the most part. The night before the training, my wife and I discussed the financial aspect of missing days, and though I took the day off when she broke her ankle, obviously, we both decided I would go to the aforementioned/yesterday's IXL training. I get there a minute early, or 14 minutes late according to the US Air Force, and situate myself. I open up all the websites they say to, do all the Padlet AI welcome page drawing they request of me, and get ahead of the program. The rest of the room is jibber-jabbering as the presenter, the other district personnel meander around the room. I see a text from my mother-in-law. And as she's at the hospital with my wife, I decide to take a look at it. Gina, my wife, is asking about my pay. Her phone got an alert about a payment. My Rapid card has an alert that goes to her phone, but her phone died before she could see how much. I decided to log into my access page to see how much and tell her whether we were covered for the deductible that they haven't collected yet. It literally took like 20 seconds to do this. And of course, this is when Miss Low Glasses decides to pretend she's my teacher. She pokes me on the shoulder repeatedly. I'm pretty sure she thinks she's tapping me, but it's super aggressive. And says, "You need to look at the screen she's showing you." I start to comment back by saying, "Sorry, I was just..." When she interrupted me abruptly, shouting enough for God and Satan to hear, "You need to get your priorities straight." Enter the malicious compliance. I was so embarrassed and pissed at the time. Pissed? It was totally uncalled for. It was when everyone was jibber-jabbering and it was to check on an important time-sensitive thing. It made me realize that, yes, I do need to get my priorities straight. I replied just as loudly as I had everyone's ear now, "You know what? I do need to get my priorities straight. My wife's in the hospital. I'll be leaving now." And I walked out. The lady looking at me through her lowered glasses scoffed, and the other district personnel pulled her aside and chided her as I walked out. One of my homies yelled out, "Love you, OP, it's gonna be fine," text me as I left. Listen, I get it. When you do these trainings, whether it's the Board of Ed, you're a hospital employee, even a, construction safety meeting on the job site, when it's time to listen, it's time to listen. But they're also adults. If they don't pay attention and they get something wrong, either dock their pay, do some kind of corrective action, fire them, whatever. But, you gotta kind of trust that they're not just sitting there goofing off and playing games on their phone or looking at Facebook or whatever. And I don't blame this guy for walking out. I would have walked out too, First of all, you don't need to touch me. That's a no-no. Don't touch. I don't give a rat's ass if you're a teacher, you're not a teacher, you're administration, if I'm an adult, a child. I don't care. No touchy. There's no need for that unless you put your hand out to be shaken and I reach out and grab it or something. That's fine. But, other than that, you don't go poking at people. That's a good way to pull a nub back, Mrs. Low Glasses. No externals without permission? Sure. Background. I work in security, and our company has many different clients and no fixed posts. So I jump from site to site. The site in question, client, is one of the more complicated sites for us and has an awful work atmosphere. We man the gates, and next to the normal truck traffic, there are also multiple visitors coming. Some of them so often you basically know them by name, and we just open the gate for them because they're here every day. One of the middle managers, Power, from client is one of those people that think they're the most important person in the world as soon as they get a little bit of power. For example, when Power got into middle management. Now the story. Power decided that this way everybody could just come and go in, so we got the new order to not let anyone external in without getting the okay from the person responsible for them. Every external, you say? Okie dokie. This alone made DHL, UPS, and so on not happy since we stopped them now, and first called the people who take the packages from them, making them also really annoyed. Then it happened. Some very important people came for an appointment with Power first thing in the morning. Something much money was hanging on. The good girl I am, I tried calling Power for 15 minutes. No answer. Well, I guess I can't reach Power. Means I can't let the very important people in. I told them so sorry. Obviously, they were not amused, but my idea that they could bill the client for their wasted time made them less unamused. Power came 15 minutes later. His car had issues. He told me that he has a very important meeting, and if the very important people came, they can go directly to him. I then told him the sad news that they were here already, and I tried to call Power for 15 minutes, but after I couldn't reach him, I did send them away, as our new instructions demand me to do. The instructions were very quickly withdrawn to the earlier system, where we could let people in if we know who they are without needing to ask first. There's that middle manglement again, just thinking they always got great ideas, the best ideas. They got to prove their worth and make changes and shuffle things around and just totally muck up the works. Not only did you make things less efficient, not even any safer really, because, I don't know. It's just dumb. It's dumb. Short-staffed? No problem. I work for a visitor attraction in London. Generally, we're out on the floor answering questions, etc. We had a dedicated team that worked in the control room, usually supervisors or those that wanted to become supervisors. Normally 1 or 2 people in the control room. They were never ever on the floor if they could help it. They watched the CCTV and controlled the breaks, lunches, etc. For instance, if a visitor sets off an alarm, they would call us and we would go investigate the alarm. Management decided to pull the supervisors out onto the floor and train floor personnel to be in the control room. Good idea on paper, but in practice? Supervisors didn't want to go on the floor, and those on the floor didn't want to go into the control room. Some of us already worked in the control room as we relieved them for breaks, lunches, etc. Basically, if you were in the control room, you stayed in there. First training week went something like this. Someone that knew the control room training, 3 or 4 of the floor people. Needless to say, that put us short-staffed on the floor, and management had to go on the floor to cover. As, how hard could it be? It'll only be a week, then I can go back to my cushy desk job. First day, I was training 3 or 4 floor staff, and management and supervisors were on the floor. Management told me to treat them like normal floor staff. Okay, no problem. I told everyone that I was training normal floor staff. We all got big smiles on our faces. Not even 10 minutes goes by, and a radio call comes in. Can one of you bring the keys for the front door so we can let the public in? It's a 5-minute walk from control to the front door. I radio one of the management on the floor. Come to control and pick up the keys and take to the front door. I get a phone call. Just have so-and-so bring them over. There's 4 of you in there. As per procedure, nobody's allowed out of the control room. Management takes 5 minutes to get to the control and then take the keys over to the front door. So we're late opening. Next radio call. Which key is it? It's number XX. They open the door, the alarm goes off. Control asks, why did the alarm go off? You need to call control to let us know exactly when to take the alarm off. It's procedure. All this is written down. Procedures must be followed. Now that the public is in, alarms start going off for various reasons. The public loves going through the doors that say, "Door is alarmed." Yes, they do. Normal stuff. I start radio calls to management on the floor. Charlie 3, go to door X. Charlie 3, go to door X, etc., etc., etc. Delta 4, relieve Charlie 3 for their lunch. Lunchtime, I get a phone call from people who haven't been relieved for their lunch on time. Management hasn't figured out that travel time between your post and the break area is not included in your lunch and break. If you have an hour lunch and it takes you 10 minutes walking time to get there, then basically your lunch is 40 minutes. 10 minutes to go from your post to the break room and 10 minutes to go back to your post. Makes sense to me. Normal control room staff knew this and would start lunches early to get everyone as much as possible a full lunch. More radio calls. Charlie 3, can you check the toilet? Report of water on the floor. Charlie 3, can you go to X visitor? Wants to use the voucher. Actually, Charlie 3, go to door X, but I'm with visitor. Doors take priority, Charlie 3. For the rest of the day, we ran management crazy. Everything in the procedures was adhered to. Count the empty spaces in the car park. Check locks on the emergency gates. Check toilets, men's and women's, to see if they need to be refilled with toilet paper. Look for lights out. Fill in your task book, etc. Next day, needless to say, I wasn't in the control room. Didn't matter. The tone was set. Didn't matter who was in there. The rest of the week went by the same. Everyone that followed me ran management nuts. Management, to their credit, changed some things after that. Black sneakers can now be worn. More break rooms closer to posts have been opened. Procedures have been loosened up. Control people are back in control and floor people are on the floor. Everyone is now trained in the control room, but they only have to work it if they want. Still, it was a glorious week. It's always nice when you get to trade places with, middle management, higher staff, whatever, supervisors, and kind of give them a taste of their own medicine. Because 90% of the time, they're sitting in a place where they're comfortable with what they're doing. They don't have to go out of the room. And they can run you like a rented pack mule without a second thought as to, is this practical? Does it make sense? Have I been, calling everything out to this one person more than everybody else who's in the area? Things like that. So, yeah, good for you. And generally speaking, it is good to cross-train employees. But at the same time, people have to realize what that brings with it. There's going to be attitudes and everything else. People are going to mumble, grumble, probably not do their job very well. In most places. But it is a cool feeling once in a while to get that little taste of power over your supervisors. So, how will you know if I'm working? Oh, you'll know. This happened many years ago when I was a field organizer, and I ended up with a manager who had explicitly said she didn't want to manage anybody, but a series of events meant I was her direct report. In our initial meeting, I went over everything I'd been doing up to that point, where to find my weekly, monthly, quarterly, and annual reports, how to keep track of where I'd be, and how to give me feedback between our monthly check-ins. She was not used to working with field organizers and was shocked that I wasn't going to be in the office except for meetings and to turn in my reports. And it's fine to not know things, but then she went and said, "If you're not in the office, where can I see you? How will I know you're working? You could be doing anything you want and I'd never know." Over and above what kinds of assumptions that makes about my character, whether or not someone looks like they're working is a terrible metric for measuring what work is actually getting done. But I kept that to myself. Rather innocently, I offered to have my task tracking app send her an email whenever I accomplished a task. She agreed. The thing about me is I'm a fast worker. I always have been. It's been a bone of contention with people who I work with. I create backlogs. I make other people feel weird about how much they do in a day. I used to get upset about this and wish everybody was as fast as me. By this time in my career, though, I learned to keep it to myself and spend some portion of my day pacing myself with others, or to find jobs where my pace wasn't that strange. This job was the latter. We were doing underfunded community-driven work where the failure or success of a project sometimes meant that people we served couldn't pay their rent or afford food, so I was blazingly fast. After 3 days of hundreds of emails a day notifying her the second I completed a task, my boss decided that she actually didn't need to know whether I was working or not. We actually became good friends after that because we realized we had a lot in common, and we teamed up against the other bosses who kept making shitty decisions and putting us in bad places because they knew we were both competent enough to solve their problems for them. Neither of us work there anymore. We've moved on to much better things, but we're still friends today. I had a couple bosses like that, and usually after a day or two, they realize whether or not you're actually producing, at least equal to what you're getting paid, if not more, or less, depending on who you were. The worst, though, was, and I hate to bring this up. Yeah, I'll say it anyway. So back in the 90s, we were on a union job in Philadelphia, and it was a mixed house. So there was some union carpenters, and then we were the non-union shop. I never joined a union. I looked into it and I thought about taking the tests and yada, 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 but it just never came to be. So anyway, I'm working under a union supervisor. I'm not a fast guy. I'm not a sloth either, but I'm a steady pace guy. I don't do anything super fast. Well, about 4 or 5 days into this job, the supervisor comes to me, pulls me into his office, which is a job site trailer out on the street. And he says, listen, he says, we're getting complaints. I'm thinking, complaints about what? He says, all the union carpenters and now all the other non-union carpenters are complaining because you're working too fast and making them look bad. Okay. I said, I'm really not. Trust me. I'm not like racing to do anything. I'm working at a normal, steady pace. I keep things moving. I take my breaks when they do. I take my lunch when they do. Trust me, I don't want to be the first guy back on the job. As far as the workload goes, though, I mean, if it takes me a half hour to do something, then it takes me a half hour to do something. It's not that I'm trying to show anybody up or anything. Well, evidently, a lot of the guys on this job, union and non-union alike, were dragging their feet on purpose. They wanted that slow, easy pace. And I'm not saying every job's like this. Trust me, I've not been in every job, so whatever. I knew that these guys on this job were like Dick and the dog. They were just, for some reason, they wanted a slow, easy pace. They wanted the job to go on for months more than it was supposed to, which, oh, by the way, hurts the guy that's paying your bills. So I'm not sure. There was potentials for bonuses in it for all of us, union and non-union alike. I don't know. I'm not sure what the incentives were to go that slow, but I mean, what am I supposed to do? I told the guy, okay, I'll try to throttle it down a little bit. I don't know what to say, man. It's really weird when somebody says that to you, especially when you know yourself. I know that I'm not working super fast. I've had jobs where people complained that I was slow, but then when they see the finished product, there was a little more quality and, attention being paid to details and things like that, and they could appreciate that. So it was a good balance. You had a few people that were fast. Great. If you wanted quality, more quality, then you called me and there was a couple other guys. So I don't know. Crazy world. Of course I'll clean the office. Today I told my wife I would take care of some household tasks I had put off. After a pretty thorough cleaning of the living room, kitchen, bathrooms, and bedroom, I went and picked up groceries and medications. Feeling satisfied with what I had done so far, I decided to relax on my phone for a bit before doing more. My wife chooses that moment to come in and sees me on my phone and yells that she has a million things to do and doesn't need me ignoring my task list, despite me pointing out I had done everything except make dinner. She tells me that I should clean the office. I began doing just that. After putting away my laptop, a small box of hobby supplies, and some notes from my D&D sessions, all I had in the office, I began my malicious compliance. See, my wife keeps every paper and piece of mail that could even remotely be considered needed in the future, and takes copious notes on everything under the sun. This amounts to about 3 good-sized boxes filled with mail, papers, files, and note cards. Dropping off each of the boxes off in the living room where she was working, I innocently told her that I would be able to finish cleaning the office once she organized and filed away all the papers, since she's very particular about how she organizes things. So now I'm back on my phone, and she has 2 million things to do and not a leg to stand on. Edit. Hot damn. Went to surf before bed and saw the commenter saying my marriage is doomed. Yes, we both acted in an immature manner, but you know what we did after? We both talked about what was bothering us and apologized to each other. Sometimes people make mistakes. My wife and I are no exception to that. What is important to both of us is that we try and learn from those mistakes and do better in the future. No relationship is perfect, but as long as we both continue to learn and move forward, I think both of us will continue to be happy and overcome any challenges together. Wise words, OP. People get their ass all up on their shoulders for no reason. They don't know the rest of the story. They don't know your dynamics. And then they chime in with, your marriage is doomed. Oh my God. Really? 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 Do you think you know the person that well? I mean, seriously. It was petty. You're telling me that none of you guys reading this story have ever been petty with your spouse, or your spouse has ever been petty with you? Really? Some of the people I've seen married the longest and had the best relationship were still petty with each other. My great-grandparents were a perfect example. And I could see all kinds of things that they did, even as a little kid. And I knew that they were being petty. But you know what? They worked it out. They worked through it. They didn't go get a divorce because somebody said, well, you got to organize your papers before I can finish cleaning the office or whatever. Stupid. Too many people these days are looking for excuses to get divorced and separate from partners and spouses and whatever. And listen, I don't have the best problem solving skills in the world when it comes to relationships. But one thing I've done is I've stuck it out. When she's pissing me off, I'm still here. When I'm pissing her off, she's still here. We work it out, we figure it out, and we make it happen. And I'm sorry, people that, like me and the missus over here, people like us that, may seem like we fight like cats and dogs or we're petty or whatever. Honestly, most of us have some of the best relationships because we work through it. Sometimes it's a pain in the ass and sometimes it takes a while and it hurts to work through it, but we'll get through it eventually. And besides, I'm too damn old to go looking somewhere else. So anyway, till the next one, we'll see you guys. Oh yeah, if you like handmade soaps and beard products and thunderstorm and traditional shave soaps, why don't you visit this website right here and take a look? You might be interested. Who knows? See ya.